Most people dream in color, vivid, strange, emotional scenes that feel just real enough to haunt you. But if you've ever woken up from a dream where everything was in black and white, like an old film with no warmth, no detail, and no life, there's something deeper going on, something you shouldn't ignore. It's not just rare, it's psychologically revealing. Dreams in black and white aren't random glitches in the mind. They're often signs of emotional detachment, suppressed memory, or even unprocessed trauma. And the strangest part, most people don't even realize they're dreaming without color until they start asking themselves why. Psychologists and sleep researchers have quietly studied this phenomenon for decades. What they found is unsettling. Black and white dreams show up more often in people who are emotionally numbed, highly stressed, or disconnected from parts of their past. It's as if the brain strips away the color, on purpose, to reflect the absence of something it can't express directly. You might think it's harmless, just a different style of dreaming, but color carries meaning in dreams. When it disappears, so does something else. So if your dreams come without color, there's a reason, and the meaning behind it might reveal more about your emotional state than you're ready to admit. The first thing to understand is this: dreaming in black and white is rare, but not unheard of. Studies estimate that only about 12% of people consistently report dreams without color, and most of them don't even notice it until they're asked. That's what makes it so strange, because dreaming is supposed to be immersive. It's where the mind lets go, where feelings turn into symbols, and reality bends in vibrant, chaotic ways. So when your brain suddenly drains the color out of that world, it's not just an artistic choice, it's a signal. Psychologists believe black and white dreams often occur in people who have become emotionally disconnected from themselves. Not in a dramatic way. It's more like a slow fading, where joy, passion, and meaning start to dull, and the mind reflects that loss visually. It's the same reason people going through burnout or long-term grief often report their dreams feel flat or muted. The lack of color isn't about eyesight. It's about insight. Your subconscious is showing you how emotionally desaturated your inner world has become. And it's not always tied to current pain. Sometimes black and white dreams show up when you're repressing something from the past, a memory, a decision, or a part of yourself that got locked away. When color disappears, the mind may be saying, "You've gone numb here. You've stopped feeling something important." So if you notice your dreams missing their usual intensity, if everything starts looking washed out or monochrome, it might not be your imagination. It might be your subconscious trying to tell you that something's gone quiet inside you, and it's time to ask, why? What's even more unsettling is that black and white dreams aren't just about what's missing. They're about what your brain is trying to protect you from. In many cases, these dreams appear when your mind is dealing with something too emotionally charged to face in full detail. So instead of showing you the whole truth, it dims the lights, it blurs the lines, it hides meaning in grayscale. This is a form of psychological shielding, the mind's way of processing trauma or emotional overload in a muted, less overwhelming way. When things are shown in black and white, they feel distant, safer, less immediate. But that distance, that's the warning sign. Black and white dreaming often shows up in people who've experienced some form of dissociation, that quiet detachment from reality that happens when emotions get too loud to bear. You might not even know it's happening. You go through your day, doing what's expected, holding everything together. But at night, your brain shows you how disconnected you really are, not through content, but through color. It's a survival tactic, but one that comes with a cost. Because the longer your mind filters your emotional world through grayscale, the harder it becomes to fully feel, connect, or remember what it's like to dream in color. Not just in sleep, but in life. So when your dream world turns monochrome, it's not just a stylistic shift. It's your subconscious quietly saying, "I'm still protecting you from something." But maybe it's time you start remembering what it is. One of the strangest things about black and white dreams is how easily the brain slips into them without resistance. You don't stop in the middle of the dream and ask, "Why does everything look faded?" You just accept it, as if that absence of color feels normal, familiar, even expected, and that's exactly what makes it disturbing. When color disappears from your dream, it's often because emotional contrast has disappeared from your life. Things don't feel as high or as low. Moments that should be joyful land flat. Sadness doesn't even sting, it just lingers, dull and heavy. That emotional flattening often shows up in dreams where the visual experience mirrors the internal one. Lifeless, washed out, silent. People going through depression often describe this kind of dreaming, not with monsters or chaos, but with eerie stillness, grey skies, empty rooms, faces they can't recognize. The brain strips away sensation because it's reflecting how numb you've become to your own experience. The dream isn't shouting at you, it's whispering, and the whisper is this: you've been disconnected for a while, and now it's starting to show. And the longer it continues, the easier it is to forget what vivid even felt like. Days blur together, dreams follow. You wake up, not scared, just blank. So if you're dreaming in black and white and it doesn't feel strange anymore, that's the signal. Not just that you're missing color in your sleep, but that your emotions have quietly slipped into grayscale, and your mind is asking if you've noticed. There's another layer to this that most people never consider. For some, black and white dreams aren't just emotional reflections, they're tied to memory, specifically suppressed memory. When the brain can't fully access something, because it's too painful, too complicated, or buried too deep, it doesn't just lock away the event, it strips out the detail. Faces become blurred, voices go silent, and often the dream plays out in shades of grey, like a faded film reel you're only half allowed to watch. Psychologists have noted that people who experienced early trauma, especially in childhood, are more likely to have black and white or muted tone dreams, not because they lack imagination, but because their brain learned early on to filter certain emotions through a fog, a kind of protective haze that keeps the full impact just out of reach. The mind remembers everything, but it doesn't always let you remember. And when your dreams start showing you scenes without color, without sharpness, or without clear timelines, it could mean that something inside you is trying to resurface, just not all at once. This isn't something to fear. It's something to notice, because when memory starts returning in pieces, through mood, imagery, or tone, it's a sign that your mind is beginning to trust that you can handle what once felt too big. And the absence of color, that's your first clue that what you're seeing may not just be imagination, but something real, something hidden, and something you're finally getting closer to remembering. There's something else that often gets overlooked. Black and white dreams don't always feel neutral. In fact, they can be deeply emotional, but in a way that feels distorted. Like you're watching something tragic happen, but you're not allowed to react. Like you should feel something, but everything inside you is quiet. That mismatch, the moment when your dream presents something intense but your emotions feel flat, is a key psychological clue. It suggests emotional suppression, not just in memory, but in real time. You're not just disconnected from the dream, you're disconnected from yourself. This is especially common in people who've been conditioned to stay strong, keep their composure, or avoid conflict at all costs. Over time, emotional expression becomes something you regulate tightly. Not out of weakness, but survival. You learn not to cry when you're hurt, not to scream when you're angry, not to ask for help when you're drowning, and eventually, even your subconscious starts adapting to that silence. The result? A dream world where emotions are present but muted. Scenes play out without color. People speak without sound. You watch, but you don't feel, at least not fully. And that numbing effect doesn't stay in your dreams. It leaks into your waking life too. You stop noticing how much you've been holding back. Until one night, your mind paints the whole scene in grayscale and asks you, when did you stop letting yourself feel the full weight of things? That's the question black and white dreams force us to face. Not just what's missing, but why we stopped allowing it to be there in the first place. Then there's the strange but undeniable shift that happens when color suddenly returns. Maybe it's just one object, a red coat in a sea of gray, a green light in a dark hallway, a flash of blue sky in an otherwise colorless dream. It's quick, subtle, but unforgettable. That moment isn't just dream imagery, it's a message. When color reappears in a black and white dream, it often marks a psychological turning point, a crack in the emotional wall you've been holding up. It means something is waking back up inside you, a memory, a feeling, a part of yourself that's been asleep for too long, and it rarely feels random. That single spot of color usually draws all your attention. It feels important, symbolic, charged. Psychologists believe this sudden reintroduction of color represents your subconscious testing the waters, showing you that you might finally be ready to feel again. Maybe you've started processing. something you've avoided for years. Maybe a small shift in your real life, a decision, a connection, a realization, is starting to heal what's been buried, and your mind, always watching, always protecting, decides it's time to bring some of the emotion back in. The color doesn't flood in all at once. It arrives in pieces, moments, hints, like your brain is slowly asking, can we go here now? Can you handle this part? And if you say yes, if you follow that color, explore what it's pointing to, that's when the dream starts to change. That's when your inner world begins to move again. Because the return of color isn't just about dreaming vividly, it's about feeling vividly. And that, for many people, is where healing quietly begins. Eventually, if you're paying attention, the dreams start to shift. Maybe they're still muted, still quiet, but something inside them feels less heavy, less distant. You might wake up and actually remember what happened, or feel something. A flicker of emotion, a wave of recognition, even a tear you didn't expect. That's not weakness, that's progress. Because the final and most important truth about black and white dreams is this: they don't just reflect what's wrong, they reveal when something is starting to change, when the numbness breaks, even slightly, when the emotional fog begins to lift, and the world inside you starts to come back into focus. This isn't about fixing your dreams. It's about noticing what they're trying to show you, the gradual return of color, the reappearance of feeling, even the discomfort that comes with it. These are all signs that your subconscious is waking up, that your mind is beginning to trust that you're finally ready to feel what it once had to block out. And it won't always be pretty. Sometimes the color comes back with pain. Sometimes it brings sadness you forgot how to carry. But that's part of the healing, not the end of the road, but the beginning of something real. So if your black and white dreams begin to change, if even one moment feels clearer, brighter, more honest, don't run from it, lean in. Because the return of color isn't just visual, it's emotional. And when your inner world starts showing signs of life again, your outer world follows. One shade at a time. Dreams aren't random. They're reflections of everything you've buried, avoided, or quietly carried without saying a word. And when your dream world turns black and white, it's not just a strange shift in style. It's your subconscious telling you something's missing. Not just color, but connection, feeling, wholeness. Most people ignore it. They brush it off as just a weird detail. But the absence of color means something. It's a sign that part of you has gone quiet, shut down, or chosen numbness over pain. And even if you've gotten used to it, if grayscale feels normal now, your dreams haven't given up. They're still trying to get your attention. Because color in dreams isn't just visual. It's emotional. It's the intensity of life, the presence of meaning, the pulse of who you really are. And when it disappears, your mind doesn't let that go unnoticed. It sends the message again and again, each time a little quieter, hoping you'll finally stop and ask, why have I stopped feeling this fully? The truth is, when your dreams shift, it means something inside you is shifting too. And whether you're still trapped in grayscale, or just beginning to see those first flickers of color return, one thing is certain: your subconscious is speaking, not to confuse you, not to scare you, but to bring you back to yourself. So don't ignore the silence. Don't ignore the stillness. And especially, don't ignore the black and white. Because what feels empty might be the very place where healing starts to grow.